But Matt, let's go right into the rest of the signings here because we haven't really got too much news on Conklin yet, but we can get into the other guys for sure. In your opinion, what was the best signing overall of their first wave of free agency?
I'm going to go with Laken Tomlinson from the 49ers. He's 30 years old, so he's not a spring chicken, but he's still relatively young for an offensive lineman who could probably play into their mid 30s. So he probably even has another contract after this one ends. He knows the system coming from the 49ers. And he's a junkyard dog as well. He loves to put people in the dirt. I like him a lot. And more importantly, we now have a solidified starting offensive line. We don't really know who's going to be playing the tackle or which tackle spots, but I think we can say with a relative certainty that it's going to be Fant and Becton playing both of those spots, respectively. So all that was really left as a question mark was our right guard. Now, before free agency started, I maybe wanted to shy away from Tomlinson because he's pretty much only played left guard exclusively throughout his career. So making the move at 30 years old to right guard was kind of itching my brain a little bit. But at the same time, if they have the confidence that he can make this move, I have the confidence that he can make this move. He's a pro's pro. He knows the system. So the fact that he doesn't need to learn a completely different scheme leads me to believe that the learning curve moving to right guard probably won't be that much of a serious thing. And just having a solidified offensive line, I feel like is just extremely important. Not just to solidify the unit, but also to give Zach Wilson something in front of him that he can look forward to. He can now maybe sit back, relax. Well, maybe not relax, but he can sit back and truly grow and not have to worry about being under pressure constantly. If this group can stay healthy, I think they could be one of the best offensive lines in at least the AFC East for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. This was definitely a really good signing. It's not my pick for the best one, but I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. I do want to talk about Tomlinson for sure. Overall, I think this is the best player the Jets have added throughout free agency so far. If you're just looking at quality of player, where they would rank amongst other positions in the NFL, I think Tomlinson is the overall best addition they've made. Absolutely, I think is going to solidify that right guard spot because at the very least, even if his play does slightly dip, making a switch over to right guard, he's going to be such an improvement from Greg Van Roten that it's not going to be the obvious hole that's creating such problems where everybody else on the line does their job great and Greg Van Roten does his job so terribly that it destroys the play. So I think there is going to be a baseline of competence there, and that's what the Jets paid for. And to maybe ease your concerns a little bit, he played right guard for like 52 games in college. So it's not like he's never played right guard. He did switch when he got to the NFL and eventually has stayed at left guard for most of his time there. So it will be some time going back. But we also got to remember that the Jets staff, specifically John Benton, Michael LaFleur, and Robert Saleh, were around this guy for years in San Francisco. They were there from 2017 up until the last season when they just left with the Jets. And Laken Tomlinson was on the 49ers since 2017 after his two first years in Detroit. So they're very familiar with this player. And they've been very familiar with this player recently. And so I don't think that they would be making this move if they had not been in contact with him up front about what they were hoping for, saying this is where we would like to play you. And if Laken Tomlinson himself was not comfortable and confident in his abilities to do that, I don't think that he would be on board with the transition. And conversely, if the Jets and their staff and their personnel coaches hadn't got the chance to see him up close and personal for so many years, I don't think they would be on board with it either. But the fact that they were around him and they're this willing to be committed makes me think that they really, really targeted this guy. If this was the guy they really wanted, then I can understand it a little more.
Absolutely. Everything's pointing towards him making a smooth transition and really solidifying this line. I'm really looking forward to see what he can do.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited for this line. I think regardless of how the tackles pan out, I think we're going to have two solid tackles. I think now we got two solid guards. And if Connor McGovern is the worst member of our offensive line, we got a pretty good unit. I'm definitely excited for that for sure. My best signing of the week, surprisingly, I think, because it was one that I really wasn't anticipating, was Jordan Whitehead. And the reason it's Jordan Whitehead is because this is absolute thievery by Joe Douglas. 2 years for $14.5 million for Jordan Whitehead. That is an ascending player in Tampa's defense the last couple of years at strong safety. He's not the most amazing ball hawking safety coverage player in the world, but he's by no means a liability. He makes plays in coverage and he's definitely sound. I got into his tape a little bit this morning. I really liked what I saw. He will knock your dang head off in the run game. The Jets run defense got a heck of a lot better this week with Jordan Whitehead and DJ Reed, who I'm sure we'll talk about soon. But Whitehead in particular, I think he's ascending. I think he's really starting to turn the corner. I think this is a perfect fit for his skill set, where he's going to be the Cam Chancellor enforcer, and he's going to be the matchup weapon against tight ends and the player and the force player in the run game. I just think it fits everything he does so well. And this is a deal for the Jets in particular, where this is a prove it deal for Jordan Whitehead, where they get to say, you're still young. I'm pretty sure he's only 25.
He is 24. Oh, yeah, he's turning 25 this year.
Turning 25. He's not even 25 yet. So in 2 years, he'll be turning 27. And the Jets will have paid him $14.5 million when he's already ascending and already a really good player. And the Jets are going to have the option to either reward him for that money and keep him as an important piece of the system, or if they don't think he's worth it, they can let him walk and they're not going to be on the hook at all. And they got him for really cheap in the meantime. I love this contract. This is such a good deal for the Jets. I cannot stress it enough. They are going to get a perfect fit safety that I honestly think is going to play his way into another contract with the team in 2 years, or at the very least is going to be the type of player where if he walks, you know he's walking because he's getting more money on the open market than the Jets can make up. And hopefully in 2 years, the Jets are good enough to where that's going to happen. That's going to be the goal eventually, is to be the team that's letting the free agents go because you're the winner and you can't pay everybody, and not the team signing the free agents because you need to get better. I love this deal. I think it's a perfect fit schematically. I think it's a perfect fit from a culture perspective. He's Darrelle Revis's cousin, not even to mention. Like, he played at Pitt just like his cousin Darrelle Revis did. There's actually from the video of Revis getting drafted at his draft party at home, you can see Jordan Whitehead sitting in a Revis jersey off in the corner of the screen. And once Revis's name is called, which I thought is really cool as just, a side connection. But outside of that, outside of the cool Revis connection and the Jet stuff there, which I love, and outside of his pinned tweet on Twitter, which is him responding to a heckler and a video of him laying out a receiver over the middle with just, nah, I hit hard. That's all great and I love it. But everything on the field and everything from a team building perspective and a financial perspective about this deal is that much better. I cannot stress enough how great of a signing this is.
Yeah, I really couldn't agree more. I was watching his tape earlier as well, and he definitely flashed a lot. Between his eyes, he's very good at with viewing the field and seeing everything, and he takes great angles to the ball carrier.
And when he triggers, it's full speed downhill, or as some Jets fans would like to say, all gas, no brakes.
That click and close ability is amazing. With those eyes, is dangerous. And he's not afraid to take on blockers. You'll see him take on offensive linemen that are most definitely a lot bigger than him, and he's fearless. He'll take them on straight on, or he'll even duck around them, or he'll use his balance through contact very well, and he makes the tackles most of the time. He had over 41 defensive stops last year, which is pretty insane. He's going to be around the ball a lot. He is a gnat. He flies to the ball wherever it is. And he's, like you said, he's the perfect fit. Contract numbers aside, I really couldn't see us doing anything better at this point. And like you said, with his age, the other option was maybe the Honey Badger. I think we did very well getting a player that we can actually put some assets toward in the future, not just a rental. I do like this signing a lot.
Yeah, I think it's different when you look at what the Jets did on offense. And I think this will be a good transition into CJ Uzomah, where they went for older players on offense because they wanted the veteran experience. They wanted to obviously have the players that know what they're doing to help their young quarterback. but they went for potential growth and talent and upside on defense, where they're going to get guys that can still come in and start and be really good starters right now that know the scheme, that they're not going to have to wait to develop. But these guys aren't aged out veterans to where at the end of their contracts, they're going to be too old. Or by the time before they get to the end of their contracts, they're going to be not playing like they're worth that money anymore. These are guys that can earn second contracts with the Jets. These are guys that could be pieces down the road that really, really flourish and become building blocks of the team. And if they're not, it's not long deals. And it's not a lot of money where you're not paying top dollar for a guy like JC Jackson, or you're not paying top dollar for a Marcus Williams. I thought if the Jets were going to add a free safety, the guy that I would have paid a bunch of money to is Jesse Bates. We mentioned that a ton of times on this podcast. Mm-hmm. He didn't hit the market. He got tagged. Sometimes that happens. The Jets were in on Marcus Williams, and for what the Ravens are paying him, it certainly seems like the amount of money might have been somewhat close to it. But give me Jordan Whitehead for 2 years for $14.5 million over 5 years for $75 million from Marcus Williams every day and twice on Sunday.
Oh, absolutely.
Without a doubt. And so I think that is really, really the interesting distinction. Getting back to Uzomah, this is almost was my pick for best signing as well, because I think when you look at the value of the type of player that he is, he had a career year last year in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's scheme is very similar to the Jets scheme. Zach Taylor, their head coach, was the quarterback coach for Sean McVay and the Rams before he went over to the Bengals. The Rams and 49ers systems are basically the same thing. So familiarity wise, he's another player that's familiar with the scheme, that has flourished in the scheme, that has flourished with a young quarterback. He's got good size. He can block. He can get passes downfield. There's a clip of him against the Ravens scoring a 55-yard touchdown on single coverage against Marlon Humphrey. This guy's got a ton of potential, and I think he's just been waiting for his opportunity to really put it together. The Bengals had a lot of tight ends for many years. They drafted him in the middle of rounds in 2015. They had guys like Tyler, what was his name? The Notre Dame tight end, Tyler Eifert. They had Tyler Eifert. They had Tyler Croft for a period of time before that. They had some guys already in place. And I think that once he got his opportunity this year and he started forming some chemistry with Joe Burrow, we really started to see him take over, and he got better and better. I really love his potential in this offense. I love his fit from a culture standpoint. From every indication, he seems like a great leader, great teammate, awesome piece to have in the locker room. And he just played in a Super Bowl. Another theme with all of these guys is that they have playoff experience, that they were not going to accept losing, that they didn't bring guys in and it's not, we paid all these veterans that have already won and now they're just looking for a check, because they didn't give anybody extremely huge amount of dollars in top market value. These guys are coming here because they believe they can win here. And I think that's another, really speaks to Uzomah as well, who was just on a Super Bowl team.
Yeah, it really does. I can't think of a single person, free agent that we signed that somebody could say we overpaid for. And that's something that usually teams like the Jets would need to do. People view the Jets as a rebuilding team, as a team that's not really a desirable destination. So when you have players of this quality actually signing on, I think they're signing on for a good reason. They're buying into this vision that Saleh and Joe Douglas are putting together. They're painting a picture and everybody's looking at it and liking it. Like you said, Uzomah coming from a Super Bowl team to our team,
an ascending team at that, not a team that people think are going to be, one and done, or a flash in the pan, or aging veterans, and they had their run like the 2015 Broncos. This is the Bengals were the next team. They were the next team to beat. They have the ascending.
They still are.
Joe Burrow will be right. They still are. Yeah, no, none of that has changed, and none of that was false when it was said before, and it still isn't now. It really, really speaks to what the Jets are building and what Robert Saleh is thought about by players around the league, because it's not like Uzomah is getting a ton of money. He got the same exact contract as Will Dissly in Seattle, and granted the Seahawks overpaid Will Dissly, but look at what Evan Ingram got in Jacksonville. He's making more by significantly more to go play with Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville on a 1-year contract. The Jets got Uzomah for 2 years for just over 15.5 million guaranteed. The total contract was 3 years for 24 million, but in essence, it's $8 million a year for 2 years.
It's nothing.
It's nothing
compared to that. It's really an amazing signing. And like most tight ends in this kind of scheme, he needs to be able to do both, be a receiver and block.
Yes.
He was in PFF's pass blocking rankings. I believe he was ranked 10th of all tight ends that played more than 50% of snaps. And he's also lines up in the slot, and he's a very good receiver. He uses his big body, 6'6", 265 frame, very well at shielding defenders off. And he's a load to bring down. I've seen him many times
after the catch,
just bowling over people or running through arm tackles. He knows how to get that yak. So he is the perfect fit for our offense. And I think it's worth mentioning how the void of talent that we had at the tight end position. We went into this offseason with, who is it, Griffin as our only
Griffin and Kenny Yeboah
and Yeboah as our seasoned tight ends. So the dearth of talent there was abundantly clear. So this kind of move was much needed, and not just that, it's a player that I think we will actually really rally behind. Last year we picked up Croft, and we were saying, you know what? I think that in this scheme, they'll be able to scheme him open. They'll get him the yards, much like Tanya in Green Bay. They'll scheme him open and give him production that way. But with Uzomah, I think he can produce himself. He can get separation.
Yep.
He can get the yak. And having that on the field, I think, is valuable.